There is a valley in the Austrian Alps that has 1,500 residents, no tourist hotels, no ski resorts, and almost no international visitors. The wood for Venice's gondolas grows here. The sourdough bread baked in its stone ovens has UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage status. A First World War frontline runs along the ridge above it. And it just sits there, being magnificent, feeding its cows, ringing its church bells, and waiting for the people willing to make the effort to find it. This is the Lesachtal. The Lesachtal runs for 40 kilometers through western Carinthia, along the Gail River, between the Carnic Alps on the south and the Gailtal Alps on the north. The valley floor sits at between 1,100 and 1,400 meters above sea level. The peaks above it reach 2,300. It is one of Austria's earliest and most committed slow food travel regions, a valley where the food culture is tied directly to the landscape that produces it. Alpine dairy from farms you can see from the road. Speck cured by families who have been doing it the same way for generations. Game from the forests above the tree line. Herbs gathered from the meadows on Tuesday mornings by a local guide who has been leading herb tours from the village of Lissing for 20 years. There are no restaurant strips here. No menus designed for tourists. The food comes from the valley. The valley is the food. But before the dairy and the speck and the game and the herbs, there is the bread. The Lesachtaler Brot. A dense, dark sourdough loaf made from rye flour, baked in wood-fired stone ovens using techniques that have not changed for centuries. Every family in the valley has its own starter, its own recipe, its own baking rhythm. In 2018, the Lesachtaler bread baking tradition was inscribed on the UNESCO list of Intangible Cultural Heritage. Not just the bread itself, but the entire practice. The cultivation of the rye, the maintenance of the starter, the baking technique, and the communal dimension of the bread festivals where the valley comes together around the ovens. Every year, on the first weekend of September, the village of Lissing holds its bread festival. Bakers from across the valley gather to bake the bread in traditional stone ovens using long-handled wooden peels. You can watch the bread being made. You can buy it warm from the oven. You can eat it at the farmer's buffet alongside the valley's other specialities and the local wine. Plan your September visit around this weekend. And then, there is the detail that stops people in their tracks when they first hear it. The gondolas of Venice are made partly from wood grown in this valley. The Lesachtal has been supplying larch and fir to the Venetian gondola makers for centuries. The forests above the valley floor are still managed under traditional methods specifically for this purpose. The connection between this remote Carinthian valley of 1,500 people and the most famous waterways in the world is not a tourist talking point. It is an economic fact that has been quietly true for hundreds of years. The ridge of the Carnic Alps that forms the Austrian-Italian border above the valley was a front line between 1915 and 1918. Austro-Hungarian and Italian troops dug fortifications, tunnels and positions into solid rock at 2,000 metres. The Plucken Pass area at the head of the valley still holds the memorial sites, the old fortifications, and the military cemeteries of both sides. When you hike the Carnic High Trail along the border ridge, you walk through landscape that has been largely unchanged since the fighting ended. Stone positions, tunnel entrances, the rusted remnants of a war fought at altitude in conditions that are difficult to imagine from the valley floor. There are no boutique hotels in the Lesachtal. There is one proper wellness hotel, the Alm Wellness Toughbad, with a spa, an indoor pool, and a restaurant serving regional Corinthian cooking. And there are farm stays. Rooms in working alpine farms across the valley's scattered hamlets, where breakfast includes dairy made from the farm's own animals, and dinner is cooked by the family from ingredients grown within sight of the kitchen window. The Lesachtal is not a place you visit for the hotels. You visit for the valley. And you sleep where the valley puts you. Above the tree line, at 1,950 metres, sits the Wolayersee, a glacial lake on the Austrian-Italian border, reached by a half-day hike from the valley floor, with a mountain hut at its shore and the Carnic High Trail running past its edge. The water is the turquoise of glacial melt. The surrounding peaks are grey limestone. On calm days, the reflection of the mountains on the surface of the lake is photographic proof of something beyond the usual alpine experience. The Lesachtal is reached by car from Lienz in East Tyrol, 30 minutes. There is no train. There is no easy way in. That is, in part, why it is still what it is. The full guide to the Lesachtal, where to stay, what to eat, the bread festival, the hikes, and how to get there, is at unfamousplaces.com. If this is the kind of travel you are interested in, subscribe. There are 16 more destinations on the site and more coming. Small towns, quiet corners, unexpected stays,